Welcome to USIP ISIP, a weekly podcast with Northern Lights Winery founder Doug Bell, exploring the experiences from leaders in business, social media, and family. Now here's this week's exceptional guest.
Welcome to another episode of USIP ISIP. I'm here with Raj Bhullar, owner of Boulevard Media, and a good friend of mine. As a matter of fact, we got to know each other years ago when I was coaching you in volleyball. I think it was maybe a grade 10 year or something to that effect. And it's such a privilege to get to see someone like you grow up as a man and into your own right, a very successful business entrepreneur and designer, and somebody who has really interesting stories to tell about how someone from a small town in northern BC could be doing things at the highest level for some of the most notable people in culture today, as well as sports. So thank you so much for coming on today.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, we're drinking some Myrtillo blueberry wine from Northern Lights Estate Winery. Nice crisp red to flow this conversation together. And I want to get started right off the bat talking about you as a kid and the things that influenced you to get to be where you are today.
You know, I think you probably know this well. I am just a sports fanatic. Growing up, you know, two older brothers. Basketball was my way of life. Loved sports, loved basketball, loved, you know, hip hop culture, you know, just culture in general. And so, you know, just growing up seeing, you know, Nike campaigns, all my favorite athletes doing cool stuff out there. That was basically the inciting moments that kind of were, you know, created that underlying creativity inside me, I feel like. So yeah.
Cool. And I know you are an athlete yourself. Now, you're not in the big leagues or anything, but playing sports and watching sports on TV, how did that influence you in terms of what you wanted to do when you were growing up?
It was everything, to be honest. Like, you know, sports is such a large part of culture, I feel like. Like athletes nowadays, and even back in the day, they are some of the biggest movers of culture. And they wield some of the most influence in the world. You know, you look at LeBron James, you know, guys, you know, back in the day when I was coming up, like Allen Iverson, he's such a cultural icon. And from that, he has his personal brand and everything that he does, you know, with his endorsements. He was making the cool Reebok commercials with Jadakiss and stuff like that. So like those are the things that really I gravitated towards. And just growing up watching that stuff, I just was like enthralled by it. Those guys were, you know, my heroes in life. And yeah, like that was huge for me.
Yeah, you talking about practice, Allen Iverson? You know, that's totally true. And I've seen that play out time and time again, where a lot of culture is derived from, you know, the biggest names. And it's changed a lot over the years because when we were growing up, it was a lot of movie stars and then athletes and politicians. And now it seems like it's not necessarily easier to influence culture, but it seems like it's coming from a lot of different directions.
Definitely.
And you, part of that is, you know, having an eye for what it is that people are looking for. Was there a time when you were younger that you were maybe sketching or drawing, or you realized you had a bit of a talent for seeing what people would actually gravitate towards?
I would say that there was not. I was not very inept in creating when I was younger. I was not a good drawer, not a good painter. It wasn't until I was, you know, there was always like creativity bubbling under the surface for me because I was consuming all this content from all these different places, and I could point out like, okay, this is cool, this is cool. I was able to, you know, figure out those type of things, but I was never able to apply it really. I couldn't really find those pathways to be able to create it properly and apply it. So it wasn't until very later on that I was able to, you know, park my butt behind a computer and just figure it out. And then as we'll get into shortly, like there were, you know, things that I saw through, you know, work experience and stuff that really pushed me to actually pursue those creative endeavors, definitely.
And were there some influences within your career set, or when you were growing up, did you do some jobs that enabled you to kind of see some of this and give you your first opportunity to do some of the work?
One thing, for some reason, I was always super like attached to player logos, like NBA like player logos. Allen Iverson, like Chris Paul is one of my favorite ones. Not as a player, his logo is nice. But one thing I would say that really pushed me towards it was, not sure if this is moving too far ahead, but in university, after my first year, I was lucky enough to get an internship with the BC Lions. So I moved out to Vancouver for the summer there. I was able to start working in the community relations department, which is kind of like marketing, but it allowed me to work very closely with the players. So I developed some pretty close relationships with some of those guys. So that was kind of like the first side of it. And then the second side of it was that although I was in that marketing department, the most interesting person in the facility at all times to me was a guy named Rich Coe, who's the creative director, the creative lead of the BC Lions. So he was always putting out this insane stuff, like, his graphic design, his packaging. He was always applying his creativity in a very cool way to something that was like tangible, which I'd never seen before. So that kind of built the pathway in my brain, like, oh, okay, there's something I can do where, okay, I like this, I'm gonna apply it here. So when I went back to Prince George, and was back in school, I was just looking around, finding what type of art that I really liked. And then I was trying to duplicate it on my own. So then I would hit the, like the YouTube rabbit holes, figure out how to use, Adobe Illustrator, Photoshop, and then try and duplicate some of the stuff that I liked in my own creative voice. And then the second summer I went back, then I had like a little bit of creative confidence. I, got closer with some of the players, and a couple of them I was like, hey, I don't know if people know about CFL, like the players it's not like the NFL, they don't get paid like, crazy money. So some of them will take on second jobs during the summer in the off season. So I kind of figured out, okay, hey, a couple of guys like, hey, like, why don't you let me create a personal brand for you? I'll create a logo for you. I'll create you a website, and then we'll do some drop shipping. We'll create some t-shirts, and then you can sell some merchandise to your audience. And they liked that. And then from there, it kind of started to, I didn't have the overall vision. I was just kind of going like project by project, like, oh, I can do something creative here. I wasn't in it for any type of money or anything. So that was kind of like the inciting incident, I would say, for sure.
You do have a very holistic approach. And one of the things that I notice, I think gets missed a lot by culture and society, is that we think of creative people as doing art, right? And of course, now there's digital art, there's physical art, there's other things, but yet everything around us is creative in some way, shape, or form. The paint on your walls, right? The clothes we wear, the physical items that we have, whether it's a car or a bracelet or a watch, or the things that we own, can be an interpretation of creativity. And so you were able to holistically think about this from a standpoint of your digital image and your actual image and physical items that could attach to those things.
Yeah.
And you noticed that very early on, which gave you maybe a bit of an edge in that you were doing things that could be monetized fairly well for the players. But before we get into that, because I know you've done some really interesting things there, I want to hear a bit more about, the first, opportunity that you had to do something for one of these players, and maybe, what came out of that.
So one big one I would say actually is, while I was working with the BC Lions, I was able to connect with a guy named Deontay Spencer. At the time, he was playing for the Toronto Argonauts. And so I said, hey, I'm just doing this stuff, like, give me a shot. I'll create you a personal brand. We'll create a website for you. He was all in with me. And then we just became friends from that. And then we continued to work together. So, that was kind of like the first paid thing I was kind of able to do. And then from that, we created a website for him. We created all of his merchandise. And then just so happened that he was able to, he was an all-star in Toronto. And then shortly after, he got picked up in the NFL. So he played with the Steelers, and then he signed with the Broncos. So that was, and I kept working with him throughout. So that's a bit of an example of, if you're just doing it for the passion of it, you never know what's going to come out of it. So don't necessarily maybe do it for the money up front. But some of those relationships that you build at the very, very beginning when you're trying to build your foundation, they're going to pay off in tenfold later on.
Raj, when I was hearing that story and you told me about that earlier, it was very interesting because I think that in our culture, in our society, there's some hesitation to doing things for free or doing them for a very little amount of money. We always talk about how much our time is worth and how much we are worth as individuals before we've even made it a lot of times. And you may be giving up opportunities by not actually taking on free work or just being a nice person. And you are building your skills at that same time. Did that lead to anything more now that you actually got a chance to work with NFL players?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have a unique perspective on that too. Like, in order to be able to get to where you want to get to, you have to eat shit at the beginning, because like you're not going to be able to get the client, your dream client, on the first day, right? You need to be able to provide value. And if you have to do it for free, you have to do it for free. And you can roll those into other opportunities. And, you'll be better for it. And in that, particular case, because Deontay is such a great friend to me, he's referred me to all types of players. I've been able to work with, just from his referral, probably five, 6 NFL guys that I've gotten to do their personal branding for them, create merchandise for them, help them with creative direction, help them just creative consultation. So it's huge. Like that one was definitely one of the moments where I was like, okay, I need to really at the beginning especially, I need to just kind of find my network, get in where I fit in, and then once I develop my skills more, everything will just start to come together for sure.
It seems like you're giving yourself at bats essentially, right? You're meeting people, you're providing them value, and then if things happen, then great. And if I'm sure that there's probably 6 other examples of times that you did that and nothing happened. And so the expectation can't always be that you're, the next person you're going to do that for ends up to be an NFL player and you get to develop a relationship. But one thing that you have done really well is you've developed relationships. And I think that probably comes from you as an individual, because you're obviously a really easy guy to interact with and you're a nice person. But, did that come from like your mom or your dad, or, how did you get to actually becoming the person who people want to gravitate to?
Yeah, I think, definitely my mom, my parents, they raised a very nice boy. But I think even like just having 2 older brothers and stuff, and always being around their friends and stuff. One thing that I've noticed is like, it's especially with like athletes and stuff, and to be able to move in those circles, you kind of have to be like, you kind of have to know their personalities and kind of just blend into the environment, like a lot of the times, I've been places with guys, with players at parties where I'm like, I'm just blending in. Like, I'm not trying to do too much. I'm not trying to do too little. If there's an opportunity that arises, I'm going to be there and I'm going to make the most of it, but I'm not trying to do too much. I'm not trying to, threaten anybody, like, creatively or whatever. I'm not trying to step on too many toes. And just like interpersonal skills are very important, right? Like, and I don't think I'm the best at them, but I think I'm good enough to, and I just know, athletes and, all that background information about athletes and culture and knowing everybody, or knowing like, pop culture, like athletics, social media. It kind of just helps me navigate those situations a lot better.
You're very well prepared, and probably when you're in those rooms with the individuals, if I went in there, I may not know half of the people that are actually in the room and talking, and yet don't just know the players, you also know the agents, the people around them, the PR individuals, and probably the amount of preparation and research that you do. Not necessarily, you do it because it's fun and you like it, but also that enables you to know when you go up to a circle of people who the movers and shakers are, and who the people are that you also want to steer away from in a way, and that's probably important. And my guess is that a lot of the players don't even understand that when they get in there.
No, definitely. Yeah, I'll actually give you a story one time of a so this is a kind of an example of like a situation that I can find myself in, and then building, contacts through it. So I was in Los Angeles working one time, and it was during All-Star Weekend. And a guy that I was working with in Los Angeles, we went to this party. Randomest thing, probably the honestly randomest moment of my life, but I'm not sure. This is probably a deep cut for some people, but we were pulling up to a party. He said, "Hey, get in this truck." So I open the door, I sit down. It's me, the guy I work with, and in the back is Baron Davis, who is like a NBA legend. And I was like, okay, well, this is crazy. Okay, it's cool. So I get in where I fit in. I'm not doing too much. So then we going into an event. So we drive going down in LA, go underground, pop back up into this club called Poppy. And it's like the most insane club I've ever seen in my life. We walk, straight, because we're with Baron, we walk straight to the DJ booth. And then who comes in 2 seconds later? Travis Scott and Kylie Jenner come and sit directly beside us. And I'll share the video with you guys. So this guy starts performing right beside me. And there's also other people there too. But I'm like, okay, I'm not going to try and go do too much, try and talk to Travis Scott, Kylie Jenner. That's way, that would be stupid for me to do. But I see that there's other people around who are kind of like in our own little network, right? So I start mingling with people on the side. One of the people ends up being the manager of an influencer named Famous Los. And so we exchange contact information. We talk for a long time. And then once I get back to Prince George, that guy hits me up for work. And we have been working together to this day. And that was probably one of the most valuable relationships that I've built to this day. And it's just an example of, knowing where you fit in and kind of making the best out of those opportunities.
That must have been an incredible opportunity, and you have found yourselves in these situations, which would be, even one time would be very humbling for a lot of people. At the same time, you are very down to earth and level-headed, and you're still working out of Prince George. You're developing content and personal branding for a lot of people, both on the high end and on the local level as well. Do you ever find it a little humbling when you come back and it's a little bit of a different scenario when you go into a club in Prince George as if you're going into a club in LA or Vegas?
No, I don't really think about it like that. Like, it's cool to do those things, but I'm still, small town guy. I like being detached from those type of situations too. Like, it's kind of like a destination for me. It's like a cool thing to look forward to. And I mean, they don't come up every, it's not like it's every weekend I can go and do that stuff, but, no, I don't really think about it like that. I still love PG. I still like, the local vibe here. And I do also I'm not the type of guy, I mean, we've spoken about this too. Like, I'm not the biggest self promoter. I need to do a better job of it. So I kind of like being, just, living the chill life and just kind of being in the background, influencing influencers wherever I can. So that's fun for me.
And you're doing a great job of it as well. I noticed that although you do everything, you do websites, you do personal branding, you do designs, it seems like you've had some real success on the design world. And you mentioned earlier that you didn't really get any formal training. You just kind of looked, you went to the YouTube Institute of Technology or whatever you might call that, learned a lot of the programming and design work, and then started to do some of that. Now, you clearly do gravitate towards the sports world, and you've had some interesting successes there. Can you tell me about maybe one of your most proud moments that you've been able to design something that ended up at the high stage?
Yeah, I can tell you two that stick out to me the most. I would say first and foremost is a project that I did shortly after the passing of Kobe Bryant. If anybody knows me, Kobe is my ultimate hero, looked up to my whole life, favorite basketball player. And after he passed away, it was, tough for me. I'm sure of course, so much tougher for everybody else who was close to him. And for a little bit of time, I had a creative block where I could only I could only make stuff that was like Kobe Bryant related. Like I could only, create graphics, create art that was like Kobe Bryant related. I was in such a creative rut, especially on the sports side of things, because I was like, who gives a shit, man? Like the mom was like, like that. It was super painful. But so one of the pieces that I made, I posted on my Instagram. It was kind of flipped his 8 into like a infinity sign, and then created some supporting elements around it. I posted that, and then at the same time, I was working with a company who had a manufacturer. It was like direct to garment. So as soon as you place something on, you just upload a file, and then they will do all the fulfillment and the shipping and all that stuff. So I had the idea. I was like, with the partner that I was set up the deal with, I said, hey, I can create this. I have this piece of art. I know that if it was on some piece of clothing, it would go insane. And that if any person who loves Kobe Bryant saw it, they would buy it. But I needed to know that, it was for a good cause. So a large part of the portion of the proceeds were donated to the Mambacita Academy and Foundation. Sorry, getting ahead of myself. But so we did that. So I said, let me create a hoodie for you on Mama Day, which was 2/24/28. And so I created the hoodie, and I said to my partner, you just need to get it on somebody that is going to get photographed, and they're going to put it on the internet, and then it will go viral. I guarantee you that. So I created the hoodie. I created the website. I made all of the banners, all the marketing campaigns. And this guy I was working with was close with some of the Lakers players. So he knew a point guard that was on the team. His name's Quinn Cook. So we made the hoodie. We shipped it to Quinn. We say, hey, walk into the arena with this hoodie on, and you will get photographed, and somebody is going to put it up. And once they get it up, it's going to go crazy. So then I also gave these, story graphics to Quinn to post to his Instagram story afterwards with the direct link to the website. So we did it somehow on like super, super short notice. Quinn walks into the Lakers arena, and you know how everybody has like the tunnel fits, like, so they'll always take photos of all the players when they're walking into the arenas to see what they're wearing. And by chance, the Lakers photographer took a photo of the hoodie and took a photo of the back of the hoodie, and the Lakers official Instagram, they posted that image on their on their Instagram page as the first image in a slider, and it went absolutely nuts. So within an hour of it posting, there was like almost 10,000 comments on there. Everybody saying, where's the hoodie from? Where's the hoodie from? Where's the hoodie from? Where's the hoodie from? And then in the comments we're just tagged, we're like, okay, it's at this website, blah, blah, blah. And then once the game was over, Quinn uploaded the stories, and we were just sitting in the back end of the Shopify, refresh. Every time we were refreshing, it was going up $10,000, $10,000, $10,000, $10,000. And then by the end, I think it was 6 figures within 3 days, I think. And then we got up to like, I think it was like $250,000 within 10 days. And so we were able to give a really, really large chunk to the Mambacita Foundation. And that one was like, that kind of gave me the validation, like, okay, I think that if there's a moment in time, I know what it takes to be able to create an impact culturally at the highest level.
That was such an impactful moment in sports and culture and history. Unfortunately, with the passing of Kobe Bryant and his daughter and the other people on that helicopter. And such a sad moment, but you were able to make something really positive out of it and actually support a cause and get validation that, hey, you're heading in the right direction. You're actually doing something that is making an impact in people's lives.
Yeah, like we've seen, even we never sent them out to anybody, like personally, and just through TV and interviews, I've seen Kevin Durant wearing the hoodie. I've seen like Miles Leonard wearing the hoodie. The craziest one that like was absolutely jarring to me was that one time I saw a picture of Rob Pelinka, who is the Lakers general manager, and he was, if anybody knows, Kobe, like Rob Pelinka is his best friend. He was his agent his whole career, and then he transitioned into general manager and the front office side of sports after Kobe retired. I've seen pictures of Rob Pelinka wearing the hoodie, working out, walking on the beach, and just to see that is actually pretty insane to me. Yeah.
Were you able to fulfill all those orders like really fast?
Not fast. I think there's definitely a lag in the shipment time, but I think they all went out. Yeah.
Insane. That's so cool. You said there was a second moment that was really impactful for you as well.
Yeah. So that second one was just to go back to the story that I just mentioned with the manager who I got in touch with. So that rolls into this one is that the guy, his name is Famous Los. So that was the manager that I met that night at Poppy in LA. Los, along the time of our working relationship, he's, put out, like rap albums, which I created all the cover art from. He does singles, create the cover art, create, merchandise designs for him. And he's really big. He's big specifically in the NBA influencer space. So he's like a Instagram comedian. He has millions of followers. All the NBA people, they always, wear his merchandise and stuff. And his big thing is that he's a huge Warriors fan. And so when Steph Curry had Under Armour was doing new shoes, they reached out to Famous Los to create an official colorway for the Curry 7. And because I had been working so closely with them creatively, I was able to work with them as well as Under Armour to design an official colorway for the Curry 7. So that was it. That in itself was an insane experience that I really literally would never imagine. It's basically the perfect confluence of events that's like perfect for me. The fact that I love sports, art, sneakers are huge to me. Fashion, and the fact that I was able to actually do something like that on such a high level. So we designed the shoe. It rolled out. Unfortunately, it was the year that Steph was hurt, so he never actually wore the shoes on the court, but he was wearing them on the bench one time. And then they also gave them to all the Under Armour athletes. So there was like a week during the NBA, or like a week or two in the NBA season, where all the Under Armour athletes were wearing a shoe that I designed, like from top to bottom. And the first 2 weeks, nobody lost a game while they were in the shoes. Not a single player lost a game. Kent Bazemore, who was on the Sacramento Kings at the time, he scored his career high in the shoes. And then for whatever reason, Seth Curry, who is Steph's brother, still wears the shoes. I think there's been one model since, but Seth will always wear the shoes when there's nationally televised games. So anytime there's an NBA on TNT game, for some reason, he's wearing those shoes, and they always get photographed, and you see them. And actually, have you heard of the movie Hustle on Netflix, the Adam Sandler one? So I had two clients, Drew Hanlon and Lethal Shooter, who were actually in the movie. So me and my wife started watching the movie. We're like, okay, let's wait for Drew. He might be wearing something that I made on his shirt while he's training the guy in the movie. Or let's wait for Lethal Shooter. He might be wearing his stuff. And I was like, okay, maybe something that I made will be in a Netflix movie with Adam Sandler. So we're going through. Drew comes and he goes, there's nothing. I'm like, oh crap, okay. And then Lethal Shooter comes, he's not wearing anything. I'm like, oh crap, okay, that's fine. And then all of a sudden, at the very, very end, at the closing credits, Bo Cruz, who's the main character, I think he gets signed to the Boston Celtics. And then they're showing footage of a real game where the Boston Celtics are playing the Philadelphia 76ers. And who's dribbling up the court is Seth Curry, and he's wearing my shoes. So I didn't even understand. And then I was like, I got almost emotional. I was like, it's almost like I had 3 shots I make in this movie, and the last one I didn't even think is possible, but I still made it in somehow. And just to be able to be like, hey, I know it's very far removed, but be able to say, hey, something I created is a Netflix film, Adam Sandler movie, it's beyond me.
That's incredible. And that's a ton of fun too, because obviously you and your wife get a chance to kind of see your work and see how it's impacting culture and different things like that. What does she think?
Honestly, a lot of people like she loves it. She's so supportive. Same with my parents as well. Like, you know, never once did they say, you know, obviously my parents wanted me when I was in university. Like I finished my, you know, marketing and finance. But I knew I never really wanted to be like an office job. Like I just knew. And obviously my mom and my dad, they're expecting me to be like a lawyer or something. And, you know, I would always be like, yeah, don't worry, I'm gonna go to law school. I'll get the books. I'll get the LSAT books. But I always knew in the back of my head that I'm lying to them. Like in my own thing, I'm like, I can't do it. And to their credit, like they're insanely supportive. Like my parents never ever like shut me down on anything. They're like, if you think you can do it, go ahead and do it, which I'm extremely, extremely lucky for. Same with my wife. Like honestly, sometimes, I mean, you know this, like entrepreneurship wise, like it's like a dark, lonely road, like especially for me. Like, I mean, you're also similar. Like there's no blueprint for what you created, right? It's like there was nothing like this here. And for me, it was like I've never met anybody who has a creative business and who is making a living off of it. So I had to put all the like mental scaffolding. I had to create it all in my head because I had, you know, there's a lot of, you know, trials, tribulations. You do a lot of stuff wrong. You trip up along the way. And I wouldn't fault my parents for being like, dude, get a real job. Like I was working, like, even while I was trying to develop my business, I was working, you know, other places, just building in the, you know, after work. But they never ever, you know, put me down, and they hung in there, to their credit and to my credit, I guess. But yeah, they understand now, but even now it's still pretty difficult to like pin down what I do because I'm just a creative person. So I feel like anything that falls underneath that, I feel like I can do, and I feel like I can figure out. I think, you know, designers and content creators, and, you know, entrepreneurs, like they're like the most versatile people in any corporate setting because they know how to just get stuff done, and they know how to just make, you know, pathways. Because coming up, I didn't know how to do certain things, but if I was asked, I would never say no. I would just do it and figure it out. And then I put that in my toolkit to the point where now I'm pretty confident I can do like a whole large, you know, I can offer so many services under the creative umbrella. And it's still difficult to explain to people, but they get the gist of it for sure.
I'll save you the suspense. Your parents are super proud of you. And I know that it is very difficult in any culture for a parent to bring up a kid and have expectations about what they can be successful at, and then let them do something that they might classify as very risky. The other thing about being an entrepreneur is it isn't a lonely road, but it is a long road. And at the end of the day, you are the one person who has all of the problems and not all the opportunities. Not necessarily that you don't get benefits from being an entrepreneur, because you do. You get to meet people. You get the opportunity to say yes or no at the end of the day. And then the biggest thing, of course, people talk about like the freedom of being an entrepreneur, and it is freeing in a lot of ways, but it's also you know, a big responsibility. And when you start to do things and you take on projects, you are taking the responsibility of the brand that you've created. You are also taking the responsibility for the people that you are supporting, whether that be employees, customers, shareholders, whatever it might be. There are a lot of components to it that can be very risky, and you've been able to manage that very well so far, and I'm sure you will in the future. One of the things you do so well is that you can pretty much apply your skills to anything and do a good job of it. There are some specific skills that you clearly really understand: consumer behavior, you know, creativity, and understanding what people are looking for. And also you have a good understanding of how culture works together to create trends, right? Because understanding right away that if you put that logo on a basketball player in that scenario, that it will get a photo, and then that photo will get that reaction. Not many people can see that many steps in front and be right? Because it's very easy to predict, but actually being right is very hard. And so you've done that, but you've also, can make a website, and you can also do, a lot of strategic branding and stuff like that. How do you focus your business now that you've had success at varying levels to make sure that you're benefiting from your greatest skills and not just saying yes to everything, because that can also take away from your ability to grow?
Yeah, I think now, earlier it was like taking on a lot of projects because you just want to get the exposure and whatnot, and you want to get the experience. But now I'm just more confident in my skills and what I do best. So like narrowing down my service offerings and being able to kind of qualify opportunities is a big thing that I've learned in the past. Honestly, in the past year, I feel like I've grown by leaps and bounds on that business side of things, because I think one like big thing for me is like imposter syndrome for me specifically is like I'm working with these huge people, brands and stuff like, and I'm just sitting in my office in Prince George, right? It's like, why am I working with these people? But then, after a certain amount of time, you say, okay, I know what I'm great at and I know the value that I bring to the table, and then being confident in that is the most important thing, right? So based on that feeling, based on that confidence that I've accumulated over the past couple of years, I can now come into rooms and come into meetings with more like authority and say, hey, I know what I can do for you guys. If you don't see the value, if you don't see the same value that I see that I can provide you, then maybe we probably aren't going to be a good fit, right? So I would say just like really nailing down what I do well, and then kind of building packages around, whether it be, I do a lot of like retainer based work now, which I never ever used to do. I used to kind of do like the project based stuff. And then I'll always have the option to break out from the retainer into specific project based pricing. So, the retainer will stay. And then if there's something on the side that requires more attention, different type of project, then okay, we can pivot this way. But yeah, I think it was just nailing down my services, knowing my value, knowing what I bring to the table, and then finding clients that I know I can create a value for, and then they need to know the value that I bring to the table as well. Because a lot of the time especially like on the internet and digitally, it's like a really weird thing with people who, like, oh yeah, okay, this is, I see all the work that you've done, but let's just do it for free. Don't worry, you'll get exposure or something like that, Now I can walk into the room and be like, nah, that's not going to fly, dude. Like, you see my track record. I don't really need to prove anything. Or if they want to do, oh, let's do a project, let's see how it does, and then we can go forward. No, like, I know my value. I know what I've done in the past. And a lot of people become, a weird thing that I've noticed over the past couple of years is that, sometimes in those scenarios where you work with a person from, from day one, sometimes those relationships or a business, not just a person, but sometimes those relationships get weird, because if you're providing a ton of value up front for a little bit of money, once the money starts to come in for that business, they want that same rate. They want that same discount, but it doesn't really work that way, right? So people become somewhat possessive over my creative skills. And that's a big turning point in the last year, where I'm like, okay, no, I don't think that cannot be the way that it works, right? It's if this relationship is worth keeping, there needs to be it needs to be beneficial on both ends, or we may have to cut ties.
What I hear you say is that obviously your skills are continuing to improve, and you don't necessarily have to prove anything because you've already accomplished a ton, even though you're a really young guy. But there's also this creative push and pull, because you're creating things for people to monetize a lot of times, and yet it's your designs. And so how do you balance that? Because generally you're not doing it for yourself, you're doing it for other people. And you're seeing a lot of dollars turn over that aren't necessarily going in your pocket for specific things. Is that like, how does that make you feel? Or how do you like figure that out as an artist and as a person?
I've definitely had to go through a couple of shitty deals. Like, I can't even lie, but that has actually helped me a lot because I now know how to structure deals where if there is something that's being sold, I can get a percentage right off bat. We can structure the deal and okay, this is the base rate and then percentage of sales, etc. Because early on, if you're a creative or something, it's such a weird world because you're like, oh my God, I'm working on this thing. Like, okay, cool. And then the person that you might be working with, they may have an agenda or whatever. They might not really value you. They're not going to tell you that they don't value you up front, but when the money comes, that's when you're going to know how much they actually value you in the process. So you might get, cut out of the scenario, which I have been, thankfully not on any, huge ones, but like I have been, screwed over a couple times and I've learned from it. And that just, implored me to figure out, talk with a lawyer, figure out a proper contract, figure out like how the percentage of sales stuff works, actually have access to the numbers because, if you don't have access to the numbers, it's actually, you're basically blind in the deal. And then also I think that has taught me is just to, keep the ball in my court as well. So just be able to have access to all, the numbers, the websites, all that stuff. And just to be able to set myself up for success before anything happens. Because a lot of the time, if you work, like, it's pretty fast paced. So like, you're always like, oh yeah, let's go. Let's do this. Boom. Let's start working on it. Blah, blah, blah. And then you forget to actually set up the stuff at the beginning. A little big part of my, the change in, how I've been doing business the past little while, a year or so is that, we set the standard from the start or else we can't really go forward.
I think you're totally right. And that's a great message for any young creator. If you do get on the larger scale is understanding that in advance. And that can be applicable to even small deals as well. But obviously it's a little harder when you're talking to, a mom and pop donut shop or something like that, where you're creating a logo for them or branding or something to that effect that they can then go forward and use after. I want to go back to one thing you've mentioned about 3 or 4 times today. And I think it's really interesting. And you and me both have shared this. Maybe more recently, I'm starting to break out of it myself. But there's branding for you as an individual. Mm-hmm. There's branding for your business, mm-hmm. and then there's everything you do to brand for other people. Mm-hmm. And one of the problems that I know for myself is that I spend so much time thinking about how to interpret data online and how to create things that people would find engaging and want to do for themselves. And it's easier in a way to create for a business or another company or entity because it doesn't reflect on you. If it doesn't go well, doesn't really matter. No one's thinking less of you or more of you. If it goes really well, yeah, you still get the same great feeling. You don't get the accolades. At the same time, you need to build your brand because that brand is going to be what people are going to essentially buy in the future. And then, of course, there's your personal brand, which may be different from your company brand in a way because, the way that you will interpret your personality to when you're at home talking to your wife or your parents or somebody else versus if you're chilling with your buddies versus if you're, with the Jenners is going to be a very different version. It's the same person, but there's slight nuances and differences to it. Yeah. How do you take that and then actually showcase that? Because one of the things I just never did it for years, and now you are starting to build on this as well. What is your process going to be like?
Definitely. Well, first of all, you are actually, it's great to have you as a mentor in my life, and like you are one of the big motivations for me to actually start to take steps towards really developing my personal brand and starting to kind of talk about my past experiences and stuff that I do, because like for so long I'm pretty happy being in the background. I liked I'm not like a super out there guy, but it is necessary. So a big thing is creating a TikTok and kind of just talking through my process, because that seems to be something that's really resonates with people, is to show them the day-to-day process of what you're doing. And I think that what I do is probably it's cool. It's interesting to some people to be able to tell my story, and specifically the fact that I'm able to do all of this stuff from Prince George. And a big part of my my personal brand going forward is that I want to actually try and help or educate people who are similar to me in smaller places and show them that there are actually specific steps that you can take to break through on a larger scale. And it's not just, you're not supposed to be just confined to your your location or your geography. With the internet, there's no such thing as you're stuck in your hometown. You know what I mean? Like every person is one DM away. So that's a big pillar of what I want to start to talk about, and I kind of want to attach to my personal brand. And it is definitely a different tone of voice from, the company brand. The company brand is, just more, reserved, more, professional. It is a little bit more, it's not as professional as like, other corporate brands, because, we do so much cooler stuff, so it's definitely different, but I'm excited to start just developing my own personal brand more, for sure.
I really like how you talk about being from a small town and still being able to do this, and that there are no walls the way that there were historically. If you weren't living in downtown LA or New York, then you were very disadvantaged because you wouldn't necessarily see the things happening. Culturally, things were happening there that weren't happening in other places, and you can actually do that. And also just being that mentor for the next group of people coming up, and showing them the steps and showing them that they can achieve these things too. And that in a way is providing you some of what you talked about you didn't necessarily have when you grew up, because even though, you had a great situation, great family, great things happening to you, you didn't necessarily have that person that said, hey, step 1, do this, step 2, do this, step 3, do this. And you're actually able to achieve some of these things for yourself. And that will just give more opportunities. But at the same time, you're able to do that on your own without that. And most of your successes have come due to your personal brand and your personality. And that's really interesting, your ability to network with people. So I think those are all really great messages. Now you are still a young guy. You've accomplished a lot. You're thinking about what you're going to do in the future. What's next for Raj Bhullar and Boulevard Media?
Well, the way that I see the next few years going, honestly, like personally, I feel like I'm only really at like 5% of my capacity. Like, of course, everybody like says that. It's hard to kind of, put it all in perspective, but, the most important thing I feel like I need to pursue is just the creative consultation. From what I've seen and heard and read about people who are similar to me in a similar industry, is that they do the work at the beginning, they're great at it, but then at a point in time it turns into they're getting paid to think. So my big thing is I want to get more into creative consultation for people, specifically for in the sports industry, and then specifically for athletes themselves. I see us being able to, our agency be brought on as creative directors for players. So I already do with Deontay. So in the modern sports landscape, and even in advertising and just in the world of influence, the athlete wields the most amount of power, right? So whereas back in the day, maybe a partnership between an athlete and a brand, the brand brings a lot of the value, right? They're just bringing the player along. But nowadays, due to the influence that all those players have, they have the most. They are in the driver's seat of that relationship. The brand more so needs them than they need the brand. So in a world where we would be a creative director for a player, all the deal flow, all the creative, all the the marketing would come through the player, come through me, and then it will come back out through to the brand deals and stuff. And just being able to provide just a holistic service package, creative strategy for a player is what I want to do. Because nowadays players, they're on Instagram, they're running camps, they, they are on Twitch. They need creative for all of that. And each time that they fall short in one side of things, their brand gets hurt. So, if I am able to inject myself into that situation, I can say, okay, this is where you're struggling. Okay, you need to up this here. Okay, we'll help you with this, and kind of map out the creative trajectory of their own career, and then just set them up really for success.
That's so neat. I'm very much looking forward to seeing all the things that you're going to do in the future. I know you're going to have some more incredible successes. You've already had some really great ones, and I thank you for sharing that with us today. If anyone wants to catch up with you on social media and follow your personal brand journey, as it were, as well as your branded company journey, where can they get you?
Yeah, you can find me at Boulevard PG on Instagram, at BLVDPG. My personal Instagram is at Raj Bhullar. I just started a TikTok, which I was talking to Doug about. It's called at MBA_nostalgia. If you like old school NBA clips, follow that too.
I've been following it. It's incredible. I love every single movie you're doing. Thank you so much, Raj. And this has been another episode of You Sip, I Sip. We'll be back next week. And for now, cheers.
Thank you for listening to You Sip, I Sip. Please hit the 5-star rating and leave us a review. If you'd like to learn more about Northern Lights Winery, text us at 604-670-4046 or visit us on social media at Northern Lights Winery.